This was my first Karen experience in real life. I had only heard strange stories, but this was the first time something happened to me. I had a red Ford Fiesta ST for quite some time. I bought it when I was in college and used it for the next 5 years. After finishing college, I got a job and bought my first apartment a few years later. I still didn't change my car because it worked just fine. A few years later, I finally found a better car for me and decided to sell my old one. It was a black Tesla Model 3. This is important later. Cue Karen. It was a Sunday evening, and I had just gotten home after having a movie date with some of my friends. It was 5-ish, and I was tired and wanted to sleep in. As soon as I parked my new car in the driveway, a woman knocks on the window of my car. She must have been in her late 30s. I felt like I had seen her a few times, though. I wasn't really sure. I roll down the window and politely ask, "Yes, how may I help you?" The woman sighs heavily and says, "Can you move your car from the driveway? Make some room for my car." "What?" I blurted. I knew I hadn't mistaken her for the first time, but this woman was a total stranger, and yet she was asking me to move my own car from the driveway. Quite rudely, too. I got out of the car and walked to her. Yes, can you repeat it?" She sighs heavily again. It was as if she was trying to show me how tired she was from our conversation. We have had 2 sentences exchanged between us, and this was her attitude? I honestly just wanted to ignore her and get inside my home. "Okay, you couldn't listen to me the first time. Move your car. Right now. I need to park mine in the driveway." The thing with Karens is that they will say something absolutely nonsensical and expect everyone to get their point. I was surprised. I checked the driveway twice to see if there was some sort of mistake from my side. Perhaps it was the wrong house or the wrong driveway? Maybe she was a relative I hadn't seen in a long time? I was trying to find out if there was some error on my part, but nope, I was in the right place and she was definitely a stranger. "Why would you park your car here, though? This is not your house. I don't understand why you would have any rights to the driveway." "As far as I know, you're not familiar. This is my first time talking to you. So why should I move my car to make space for yours?" I asked. She sighed again. I was losing patience at this point. She was the person who just barged in and made a ridiculous demand. I should have been the one trying to let out an exasperated sigh, not her. I chose to ignore it because there was nothing I could do. "Because I'm given the permission to park my car here." "No, you don't have any permission. It just made no sense. Why would I lend my driveway to someone I don't even know? I don't remember giving anyone permission. It wasn't a rented house. I had bought it, so nobody else could give her any sort of permission other than me." "Who gave you the permission?" I asked, to which she replied, "The owner." No, I think you're mistaken. I haven't given anyone any kind of permission." "I definitely don't know you. You must be thinking of someone else," I said. Karen grabbed my arm quite tightly and frowned. "Who's asking you? I'm talking about the owner. I know the owner. I'm friends with the owner. He gave me permission." She said owner so many times, but not once did she say the name. Weird. I definitely didn't know this person. I kept observing the surroundings, trying to find a camera and a bunch of college dudes filming me for some social experiment. None. Nobody in sight at all. This was happening. It wasn't a joke or a prank. "Okay, tell me the owner's name if you know him so well." "Go on then." She kept looking at the house, searching for a nameplate or something. At last, she surrendered and said that she had forgotten the name. I told her that. She went on and on about the owner and how she's friends with him, but she has forgotten her own friend's name? That was highly unlikely. She said that I should believe her because if the owners really came, he would kick me out of his driveway. "What owner? I own this place. It's my house. I don't know you, and I absolutely didn't give you any permission to use my driveway. You can't just lie because you have no place to park." Karen clicked her tongue and said in a sassy tone, "You, the owner of the house? Nope. Did you take me for a fool? And do you really think I have no place to park? I do. But I'm permitted to park here. I also know that this house hasn't been sold to anyone else, so you can't make that excuse. Tired by the conversation going in circles, I asked her why she thought I wasn't the owner. She smiled and said, "Because the owner has a red car, and you have a black car. Easy as that." I was irritated. I told her that the car was mine and I sold the red car. "No, you haven't. See, I have been living here for a long time now. I know the owner. He has always driven the red car. You're just trying to fool me, aren't you? Well, too bad. I am way too witty for your stupid games. The real owner always lets me park my car. I can even trespass into his house. That's the sort of relationship we have." My house? Did she say she trespassed into my house? I was definitely going to send her to the cops. "Excuse me. I have given you no such permission, but thank you for being so honest. Now I won't feel bad when I go to the cops." The woman began fidgeting. She asked me twice if I was really going to do it. I told her that I would, and she started throwing a tantrum. She said that she would damage my car if I didn't move. She also stressed that I was lying about being the owner and buying a new car. I called the security guard since we lived in a gated community. Karen kept fighting with me and threatening to sue me. I have no idea what she would sue me over. If anyone had a chance, it was me. When the guards finally arrived, I asked them to tell Karen who I really was. They told her that I was indeed the owner. Karen didn't believe it one bit, though. She was sure I paid them some sort of money to ashtray her. Eventually, she did the Karen move. I got to see it right in front of my own eyes. Since there was no manager, she asked to call the head of the committee. She threatened me that if I was playing with her, she'd destroy me. The head arrived shortly after a few minutes. Karen told him that the owner was always in a red car, and one day he gave her permission to park her car in his driveway. The head didn't seem to buy this, though. It was as if they had relieved the scene already. He politely informed Karen that I was the owner and that I had bought a new car. "But it was the guy in the red car. I guess somebody else parked your car that day." I asked her which day she was talking about. She pretended to think for a while, then replied that it was 2 weeks ago. I told her that I had never lent my car to someone else. I have always been the one to drive the car. "Well, then maybe you were drunk that day." Wow. That woman was so involved in the act that she didn't want to take any accountability. She just needed someone to blame. Earlier, it was the owner in the red car, and now that she knew it was actually me, she made up a scenario and blamed me for being drunk. "No, not possible," I said. She kept saying that I looked drunk and my speech was slurred. I looked at her pathetic face and told her that I'd been 12 years sober, mostly because I didn't like any kind of alcohol. She was about to say something more when the head of the committee stopped her. "If it's not him, you will probably say it was dark, or you will say that you mistook someone for him. If the worst came, you will even say that you yourself were drunk. I know how this plays out. Please don't do this. You've already said enough. Nobody believes a word from your mouth." Karen's cheeks grew hot from embarrassment. The childish stubbornness that she had shown earlier was nowhere to be seen. The head of the committee then told us that it wasn't the first time that they had such a complaint. Karen had tried to fool others, too. In fact, she always parked on someone's driveway. She did it just because she wanted to show others that she could do whatever and there would be no consequences. When it's time for the owners to get back home, she takes away her car. She observed the neighborhood and did it when the owner wasn't around. Rumors are that it wasn't even her car. It was her daughter-in-law's car that she had somehow taken away from her. She wanted to illegally park her daughter-in-law's car and get a lot of tickets in her name. It was all because she didn't like her. With her humiliated face, she was going to sit in her car when she spotted her daughter-in-law in front of her. Her daughter-in-law demanded that if she didn't return her car, she would report it stolen. And she would also tell the cops that it was her mother-in-law who stole it. Karen scowled and then threw the car keys right at her. Thankfully, the daughter-in-law moved away quickly. The daughter-in-law thanked the head for informing her. Then she took her car and quietly drove away. I asked the head if we could file a complaint against her, and he told me to meet him the next day for lunch. The other neighbors who had suffered similar situations because of Karen also joined us, and we finally filed a complaint against her. I checked the security tapes to see if she was trespassing into my house, but I guess that was just another lie. I sent a warning through her daughter-in-law that I would immediately get her behind bars if she trespassed again. She never involved herself in another trouble in the neighborhood ever again. I honestly don't know where exactly to put this story. There's definitely stupidity and some entitlement involved, but I hope some entertainment for you as well. Necessary background information. This is a story from a country in Central Europe that is quite xenophobic and racist, mostly due to consisting almost 100% of white people, and even in the largest cities, you will end up with stares on the street if you are a person of color, because it is rare to see one. Which I am not. I am a Caucasian white male, after 30 at the time of this story, though on the darker side of the spectrum, with dark brown hair and eyes. I get suntanned very easily and can get almost dark brown quite fast in the summer. This is important. So, summer early 2010s. Here is me, coming home from work with a laptop and having decided to have a beer at a very low-cost local tavern right next to my flat in the suburbs. Don't judge me. Yet. It is quite a usual thing to do here. This is the area where I was born, lived for 30 plus years, and know pretty much everyone around. I regularly drop by this pub when I have some minor work-related catching up to do so I can plan my next day properly. The whole ordeal basically means ordering a beer, leaving a generous tip, which is unusual here as well, doubly so for low-cost pubs like this, and minding my own business without getting bothered by other patrons while I do some minor work. That meant 2 barkeeps that rotated there liked me very much because I never caused trouble. I'm always polite and leave extra money for them. Other patrons knew me as someone that they shouldn't bother with, but also knew I was one of them. While I was trying to decipher some corporate bullcrap thrown at me through the email, I barely registered a couple, not much older than myself, sitting down at the table next to me. The pub is busy and most of the tables are full. No big deal, though I have a feeling I'm being stared at. I look up, they look down. I'm confused because I am literally your ordinary guy, but I generally try not to give a crap about other people's business. This repeats once or twice. Then I hear a loud BAM! As the fist hits the table next to me. Again, I look up, kind of perplexed. The couple at the table where the noise came from is looking at me as if judging my reaction. Then they start to whisper to each other. Again, I'm confused, but again, I don't give a crap. About 10 seconds later, a woman from the table moves to mine and says in a quiet voice, "I know why you're here." I put up the most polite, "what the hell" smile, which I regularly practice with my significant other's mother, and answer, "To have a beer?" She points to the notebook bag, which was empty since the notebook was on my table. "I know what you keep there." At this moment, I kind of resign and tell her something along the lines of, "Entertain me. Your people come here with these bombs. Now, you don't want us to call the police. I shit you not." She basically thought that I was some kind of Middle Eastern terrorist with an effing bomb in the bag. Now, my 10 plus years of customer care training kicked in like a basic reflex outside my cognitive input. So I basically shook my head and asked, "Why do you think there is a bomb in there, lady?" "It's people like you. You come here, foreigners from Arabia." At this moment, I finally regained my senses and tried a last desperate gamble to her ratio. "Do you think that a foreigner from Arabia would fluently speak to you in our native language?" She smiled, and as her husband/boyfriend got next to her in the meantime, he added, "That is what we demand to know. How did you do that? How did you learn to speak it that good? Did they train you specifically to put a bomb here?" Now, I have seen some crap in my life, and been through much that I do not want to talk about, and yet consider myself an extremely calm and collected person. But then and there, I had my mouth wide open, and silenced for God knows how long. I was mistaken for a god-dang terrorist, basically next door to the house I've lived in my entire life. After I recovered, I picked up my beer and my laptop, stood up, and shouted across the pub, "I just wish to have my frickin' beer in my frickin' country in frickin' peace." Then looked across to the barkeep and while pointing at the couple again shouted, "Do you think this is possible?" and seated myself at the next free table. All credit to the barkeep. He came, he shouted, and they had to leave. Most of the bar was readying to throw them out by force. No idea if it was just sympathy to me or just a general cheering up for a possible fistfight. Never saw those people again. Now that you made it here, there are some points that make this even funnier. Our country has never been a target of foreign terrorist attack. Too insignificant, honestly. It is almost impossible to be confused with a native speaker unless you were born here. The moment you open your mouth, everybody can tell you're a foreigner. So, I have a friend who has a history of entitled behavior. Recently, some things she's done have just rubbed me the wrong way. Namely, I lent her something, she returned it by leaving it outside my house on a planter exposed to the elements, rain, etc. Never told me despite me expressing on numerous occasions I wasn't home and she'd have to arrange to drop it elsewhere or give it to me another day. I had to find out when I asked her an unrelated question, and it could have quite possibly stayed outside all night, so I've pulled away. We have an exam on Tuesday and Wednesday. It is a topic I like and am good at. I, however, have a 2-year-old, and my studying times are usually the moments when I can carve out when she's asleep, or my husband/mom can take her for me to get quiet. She asked to come over tonight. I told her no, my husband is working, so I'd have my daughter. She then says, "What about tomorrow?" I said, "No, again, my husband is working." No matter how many variations of including the word no, she keeps saying, "Oh well, your daughter wasn't so bad last time." The thing is, she is liable to just turn up at my house. And studying with her is in no way beneficial to me because she does nothing and I'm just doing everything and getting slowed down because she needs me to break everything down for her. I'm pretty sure she's either gonna call me incessantly or just show up here tomorrow. Update. She's been messaging me, but I haven't responded to her. I archived our chat in WhatsApp, so I have to physically go check it to see if she messages me. I've been in a Zoom call with some friends actually studying. She hasn't shown up, but the evening is young yet if anything changes.